Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and blog. It is Wednesday, so that means it is Brutus Monroe blog hop day for the inspiration team, and our challenge was anything goes. So I'm going to use all kinds of fun products, but in the end, I hope you like what I've made. I have pulled out some Aqua pigment paper. This is by Brutus Monroe. I've also got a scrap, and I am putting this inside of my Misty. There's a smooth side and a little bit more rough side, and I'm pulling out this spiral cloud stamp. It's a 4x6 stamp, and I haven't inked it up yet. I'm like, oh my goodness, why have I not inked this up yet? So I put this into my Misty, and I'm going to grab my magic powder bag and put that all over my aqua pigment paper, and then I'm going to ink up my stamp with some clear embossing ink. It's just a clear sticky ink, and then I will stamp that down onto my aqua pigment paper. I'm going to cover this with some of the embossing powder of the month. This is called Gadgets and Gizmos, and I thought this would just be beautiful for these clouds. And that's what it looks like. And then I'll just spread that all over my paper. And you will notice, if you use this, or when you use this, that you're going to get like almost like a coating, and it looks like, oh my goodness, there's gray all over your paper. But you can't worry about that, because that will definitely wipe away later. So I'm going to heat this with my heat tool until that is smooth and melted, and you'll be able to tell, because if you hold it up into the light, which is what I end up doing, you'll see that it's shiny. It is no longer matte finish, and it is shiny. And I'm just going across all of those clouds, making sure that I get each one of those heated very well. You don't want to overheat it, but you definitely don't want any of the granules left behind. And so once I'm happy with that, I've held it up to the light. I'm going to set that aside to make sure that cools down, and then I'll grab just a microfiber cloth and wipe all of that excess mica powder away. And then, see, no worries with the powder looking like it's doing anything. And isn't that beautiful? It has this like silver but super shiny. It's very pretty, unlike any of the powders that I have. Putting some more of that aqua pigment paper back into my Misty, I am going to ink up this adorable little bear from Birthday Bear. And I did end up getting a little bit of that ink from his belly onto the bear itself. And I actually thought, oh, I'll just use my mono sand eraser to erase that away. But you'll see I end up forgetting about that entirely. To color my images, I'm going to use a bunch of different aqua pigments. So that first one that I'm putting down is Turquoise, and I'm putting a little bit of the pearl into it. And I'm going to just mix that around. That pearl will give it a little bit of a shine, and I end up putting that into all of the colors that I used today, all of them except the brown. I didn't want the bear to be all sparkly, although he'd be cute like that too. And I've sped this up about 4 times just because it's pretty much the same thing for this entire background. I am starting with my turquoise, bringing it down from the bottom of the cloud, because I want most of the shadow to be underneath the bottom of the cloud, and just being very aware of where my edges are, where they meet, because I want that to blend out pretty smoothly. In some areas I do get a little bit of blooming. You can see on that lower right hand side, but I fix that later just by going back over that once it's dried a little bit. So it's really not that big of a deal. So that's my first layer, and as I've said before with watercolor, you kind of want to work in layers. I mean, you can do it flat if you like that look, or if that's the look that you are going for, but I wanted to have some dimension within these clouds, making them look like they're kind of either forefront, or that the light is coming from the top down, and so the bottom of the clouds have some shadowing. And if you've noticed, I have put this into my Waffle Flower Water Media Mat. I love this mat because it's made of silicone, so it kind of grips the paper. I don't have to worry about it moving around too much. And also the wells are fantastic for putting your paint into. And I'm not real great at figuring out how much of that paint I actually need. I always end up putting way too much in there, except in this case I realized I put way too much blue down, and now I'm just putting down a little bit of that pearl, because I'm going to put that all over the clouds in certain areas to make it look like there's a little dimension on the clouds as well. And then they'll also have some shine when you push them around or hold it up in the light. But I like my Waffle Flower Media Matte for watercolor and for ink smushing as well. I haven't done it recently because I was using my tonic matte, and that works great too, but I do like this because it does keep things kind of not, they don't move around. And so that's what that looks like now that that's dry, and I'll set that off to the side to dry even more while I get ready to paint my little bear. And I've put down an array of colors. So that pink I'm using is coral. I also have yellow, I have orange, I have blue-green, and then I also have brown. And I've put a little bit of pearl in each one of those colors except for the brown, as I said before, because I didn't want my bear to be all shiny. I just think he's adorable. He could either be standing there holding those balloons, but in this case I'm going to make it like he is floating. Because I didn't heat emboss or emboss the edges of my bear, I did end up getting a little bit of blue into the orange, but I was able to wipe that away, no big deal. And I'm just putting that color for the bear all around, and this is where I realized I kind of forgot to wipe away his the ink that came through on his belly, and so now it just kind of looks like he has a little bit more chest hair. Or some differentiated chest hair, because I imagine bears just, I mean, they're hairy all over, so they have chest hair. Oh, how I digress. I'm adding a little bit of shadowing to each of the balloons, just using the colors that I have there. So you can build up color on top of color using the same color when you let things dry just a little bit. And that's really all I've done. I let it dry, and then I'll come back in with a little bit more color. So that's how you can add some darker, deeper shades that way. And I forget to color the ice cream cone on camera, but I do end up going back in and coloring it after I've turned the camera off. But yeah, adding a little bit of pink cheeks to him. And then I have fussy cut him out, and I have also cut down my panel. For my card base, I'm using some sidewalk cardstock from Brutus Monroe. I had cut that down to 4 1/4 by 11 inches and scored it 5 1/2 inches to make a top folding A2 size card. And then I do want to pop up my panel onto my base, and I'm using some 1/16 inch Brutus Monroe foam tape. I have discovered that I really, really love this stuff to use on like panels, to pop up my panels. This stuff is fantastic for that. And it works fine using it on small images as well, but I really like using it for my panels because it's not real thick, and it's nice and sticky, and it works really well. So I did end up putting some foam tape on the back of my little guy as well, but the foam tape I put on him was just some Scotch foam tape that I had. I'm putting some more paper into my Misty, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment, thank you. And this is from the Tree of Thanks stamp set. It has so many great thank you sentiments in there, and I find that I am constantly needing thank yous. So I've just inked that up with the Raven Detail ink, like I did with my bear. I didn't mention that before, but I inked him up with some Raven Detail ink. And then I'm going to give it a bit of a flag banner. And then I'll use a little bit of foam tape on the edge because I decide I want that going all the way to the edge of the sidewalk cardstock. So I'll just have some of that foam tape just going along that far left edge. And then I will use some liquid glue over the rest of it. I'll peel off that backing paper, and this is where I'll grab the liquid glue. And then I'm going to put that in the upper left-hand corner. And then I'll peel off the foam tape off my little bear. So there's a lot of dimension on this card. And then I decide I want to stamp him on the inside of the card as well. So I just use the embossing ink just to give it a watermark feel. And it's very subtle, but that will finish off this card. So why don't you go ahead, if you're interested, head back to my blog, because I will have a link to all the other participants in the blog, so you can go ahead and check out what they've made. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.